This is Holy Trinity, Anglican Church, Vancouver. We are looking at Melvin Tinker's book, That Hideous Strength, How the West Was Lost, as the basis of our Lenten study. He quotes Michael J. Minicino. The principles through which Western Judeo-Christian civilization was built are no longer dominant in our society. They exist only as a kind of underground resistance movement. As part of lockdown, I put together a jigsaw puzzle of Bruegel's depiction of the Tower of Babel. Dr. Beth Harris says of it, there's this sense that it's rising and falling simultaneously. There's a total sense of futility here. Everyone is doing something. Everyone is building or carrying or carving or climbing or doing something to make this happen. And yet, as they're so busy, we know that it's all for naught. And so, there's a sense of the complete futility of human endeavour. Is that depressing enough for you? There are shades of Ecclesiastes about it. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. What does man gain from all his labour, at which he toils under the sun? Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verses 2 and 3. The good news is that isn't the complete story. It isn't the complete story of Psalm 127. Please turn to it, page 605 in the Church Bibles. Verse 1. Unless the Lord builds the house, its builders labour in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchmen stand guard in vain. It's that word, unless, that's our friend. Yes, if we choose to go it alone, all is in vain. But God holds out a hand to us. Are we willing to grasp it? Back in 1995, I lost my job. I was working for an American employer in London. I lived 5 minutes walk away, and I ended up standing in the middle of my flat at 5 p.m. thinking, what do I do now? It was a bit like that on the 17th of March 2020. At 3:15, I received the email. I am directing the suspension of all Sunday and weekday in-person worship in our parishes until May 3rd. Something like that happens and, as they say, it makes you think. Usual activity is stripped away, deemed superfluous. In vain you rise early and stay up late. And you find yourself thinking, what's it all about? The writer of Ecclesiastes continues, I tried cheering myself with wine and embracing folly, my mind still guiding me with wisdom. I wanted to see what was worthwhile for men to do under heaven during the few days of their lives. I undertook great projects. I built houses for myself and planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks and planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees, and so on. Yet, when I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. On New Year's Eve, Sydney Harbour Bridge is the centrepiece of a fireworks display. To mark the beginning of the year 2000, the word eternity was depicted in fireworks. The script used was that of Arthur Stace, who wrote that word, eternity, at night on Sydney sidewalks, anonymously until his identity was revealed in 1956. It's only in that context, eternity, that anything makes sense, that anything has meaning. Ecclesiastes again. A man may do his work with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, and then he must leave all he owns to someone who has not worked for it. Or, to put it another way, you can't take it with you. Verse 2 of our psalm. In vain you rise early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat, for he grants sleep to those he loves. Have you ever wondered what sleep is for? I guess we don't tend to, because it's so much a part of life. But why do we whittle a third of our lives away in that way? Is it perhaps meant as a humbling experience, a time when we're forced to be vulnerable? When I was a curate, my boss, the rector, had had more than one nervous breakdown. That was before I arrived. He worked very hard, but was that a good witness? Don Carson is an extremely gifted theologian, and yet it was said of him that he worked so hard, churning out the books on the lecture circuit, that he made himself ill. Was that a good witness? We can talk of resting on the promises of God. You can take that figuratively, but I'm going to suggest it has more literal connotations. Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Matthew 11:28. "O come unto me, this awful price, redemption's tremendous sacrifice, is paid for you. Oh, why will ye die? O come unto me." Verse 3. Sons are a heritage from the Lord, children a reward from him. The reformer John Calvin writes, By the word house, the psalmist means not only a building of wood or stone, but he comprehends the whole domestic order and government of a family, even as, a little after, by the word city, he denotes not only the buildings or enclosure of the walls, but also the general state of the whole commonwealth. God is the builder and protector of the family. Ecclesiastes again. Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Diana infamously said, "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." I guess it depends on who the third is. Ecclesiastes envisages God being the third party. The cord of 3 strands represents God, the groom, and the bride. Braiding these 3 strands symbolizes the joining of one man, one woman, and God in marriage. By keeping the Lord at the center of marriage, his love will continue to grow and bind the couple together. I'm going to go back to that quotation from Michael Minicino with which I started. He continues, "In our era of incurable pandemic disease and nuclear weapons, the collapse of Western civilization will very likely take the rest of the world with it to hell. The way out is to create a renaissance. If that sounds grandiose, it is nonetheless what is needed. A renaissance means to start again, to discard the evil and inhuman and just plain stupid, and to go back hundreds or thousands of years to the ideas which allow humanity to grow in freedom and goodness. Once we have identified those core beliefs, we can start to rebuild civilization." I found that interesting for a couple of reasons. First, his reference to pandemic disease. As he was writing back in 1992, I call that prescience. And second, that he chooses to use the word rebuild. Paul writes, "Each one should be careful how he builds, for no one can lay any foundation other than the one already laid, which is Jesus Christ." 1 Corinthians 3, verses 10 and 11. Christ is our cornerstone. On him alone we build. There's the tale of a gardener who transforms a wilderness. A clergyman comes along and perhaps a little piously says, "You and the good Lord together have made this beautiful garden." To which the witty gardener replies, "You should have seen this place a couple of years ago when God had it all to himself." And yet, dear friends, The gardener knows deep down, but were it not for the sunshine and the rain and the miracle of the seeds and the soil and the seasons, there would be no garden at all. All good gifts around us are sent from heaven above. All we can do is nothing worth unless God blesses the deed. Vainly we hope for the harvest tide till God gives life to the seed. Unless the Lord builds the house, its builders labour in vain. Amen.
But then